Once upon a time in the quiet town of Willowbrook, there lived a young woman named Emily. Emily was bright, ambitious, and full of potential, but she carried a heavy burden that threatened to consume her life: obsessive-compulsive disorder, or OCD. Emily's battle with OCD began in her late teens. At first, it seemed like a harmless quirk. She would double-check that the doors were locked before leaving the house and ensure that her textbooks were perfectly aligned on her desk. But as the years passed, these rituals multiplied, gaining a life of their own. Soon, Emily found herself trapped in a never-ending cycle of compulsive behaviors. She couldn't leave her house without spending hours checking every appliance, every faucet, every electrical socket. Her hands were raw from excessive washing, her mind tormented by intrusive thoughts that something terrible would happen if she didn't follow her rituals. Her social life disintegrated, as she couldn't bear to touch or be touched by anyone for fear of contamination. Emily's dreams of pursuing a successful career and forming meaningful relationships were slipping away, and the more she tried to resist her compulsions, the more intense her anxiety grew. One fateful day, as Emily was sitting alone in her dimly lit room, her gaze fell upon a dusty old bookshelf in the corner. She remembered how she used to love reading, escaping into different worlds through the pages of novels. But that was a lifetime ago, before OCD had taken over her life. A wave of frustration washed over her. She couldn't go on like this, imprisoned by her own mind. Emily decided it was time to seek help. She made an appointment with a therapist named Dr. Peterson, known for his expertise in treating OCD. Their first session was challenging. Emily felt exposed and vulnerable as she confessed the darkest corners of her mind to Dr. Peterson. She spoke about her rituals, her crippling fear of germs, and the constant dread that engulfed her every moment. Dr. Peterson listened attentively, his kind eyes filled with empathy. He explained that OCD was like a bully, convincing her that her compulsions were the only way to prevent catastrophe. He assured Emily that they would work together to break free from this torment. Emily's journey to recovery was far from easy. Dr. Peterson introduced her to exposure and response prevention, ERP, therapy, a scientifically proven method for treating OCD. ERP involved gradually facing her fears and resisting the urge to perform her compulsions. Their first exercise was a simple one: touching a doorknob without washing her hands immediately afterward. Emily's heart raced as anxiety surged through her veins. She could feel the panic building, but Dr. Peterson coached her through it, reminding her that anxiety would eventually diminish if she didn't give in to her compulsion. Days turned into weeks, and Emily diligently practiced ERP. Each day brought new challenges, and the process was grueling. But she was determined to regain control of her life. She started with small tasks and slowly worked her way up to more anxiety-provoking situations. One day, Emily confronted her fear of contamination by visiting a crowded park. She knew that the playground equipment teemed with germs, but she refused to let it dictate her actions. The first few minutes were excruciating, but gradually, she felt the anxiety subside. It was a small victory, but it filled her with hope. As Emily continued her therapy, she found strength in the support of her family and friends. They had always been there for her, but she had kept them at a distance due to her OCD. Now, she slowly let them back into her life, explaining her condition and seeking their understanding. Her best friend, Sarah, proved to be a pillar of strength. She attended therapy sessions with Emily and learned how to support her during exposure exercises. Sarah's unwavering presence, along with Dr. Peterson's guidance, made Emily feel less alone in her battle. Months turned into a year, and Emily's progress was evident. Her compulsion to check and wash had reduced significantly, and she could now hold a conversation without constantly worrying about contamination. It was a monumental step, but Emily knew she had a long road ahead. To celebrate her progress, Emily decided to take a trip to the beach with Sarah. She hadn't been near water in years, fearing the germs and the mess. As they strolled along the shore, Emily felt a sense of liberation she hadn't experienced in ages. The ocean's vastness reminded her that her fears were but drops in the grand scheme of life. One evening, as they watched the sunset, Sarah turned to Emily and said, "You've come so far, Em. I'm proud of you." Emily smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. She knew she had a long way to go, but she was determined to continue the fight. Several years passed, and Emily's life had undergone a remarkable transformation. Her OCD no longer ruled her every move. She had rekindled her love for reading, started volunteering at a local animal shelter, and even re-entered the workforce. Emily's journey wasn't without setbacks, but she had learned to accept that perfection wasn't attainable. She still faced occasional anxiety and intrusive thoughts, but she had the tools to manage them. Dr. Peterson had become a trusted friend, and therapy had evolved into periodic check-ins rather than regular sessions. Emily knew that her battle with OCD was a lifelong one, but she was no longer imprisoned by it. Emily's story spread throughout Willowbrook, inspiring others who battled OCD. She became an advocate for mental health, sharing her experience and encouraging those in similar situations to seek help. Her message was clear: recovery was possible, and they weren't alone in their struggle. In the end, Emily's journey was not just about overcoming OCD, it was about discovering her inner strength, the power of resilience, and the beauty of human connection. Her life was no longer defined by rituals and fears, but by the joy of living fully. And so, Emily's story became a testament to the indomitable spirit of the human soul, a story of breaking free from the chains of obsession, and a beacon of hope for all who faced their own battles with mental health.